Borderlands, broadband internet, the game where you shoot a guy to complete a side quest. Everybody's heard of Borderlands at one point if you like FPSs or RPG-ish games or looter shooters or whatever. Borderlands the father of that. And with me recently playing Borderlands 4, I ended up replaying most of the series. Or all these series that I own. Borderlands 1, 2, pre-sequel, Tales, 3, and 4 itself. And got me thinking, really, this is a series that's really interesting to me because there's a lot I love in each game and what I don't like in each game, just like with most games. But I just thought I'd have an excuse now with Borderlands 4 being out and the state it's in to kind of just talk about it and kind of reflect on the series as a whole, because this is such a weird series and what I think each game does best and what does worst. So with that being said, that's what today's video is going to be. It's going to be another long-ish one, but that's just mainly because I really ramble a lot, you know. Not really ramble, I just like getting into details on certain things. So with that being said, we're just going to run through it nice and relaxed, what I like the most, what I like the least about the Borderlands games I've played. So just sit back, enjoy it. I don't know, get yourself a snack, play Borderlands while you're doing this in the background, or play Doom, I don't know, play something fun. And let's get started. Borderlands 1. What do I like the most with Borderlands 1 would be, oddly enough, its replayability. Now, I know that's a weird sentiment, considering how Borderlands 1 has aged, and Borderlands 1 is kind of turning more into a like an acquired taste game, from what I've heard online and what I see people saying and my friends itself. I grew up playing Borderlands 1, and it's just the easiest one for me to get in. It's an easy one for me to get into, but my friends are like, it's so clunky and dated, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of true. But nevertheless, though, to me, it is my favorite one to replay, and I think it's the best with replayability. What I mean by that is purely its simplicity and its replayability. Now, I mean that in the sense of, like, there's no dialogue in a lot of submissions. The DLCs add a bit more dialogue and more personality overall, but the game itself isn't as full as many mechanical things to juggle, like slag, iridium, or your skill trees aren't that complex. Let's take like a side mission example, like something called like family debts. In Borderlands 1, you just go do that. Like, let's say you collect stakes, right? Borderlands 1, you just collect your stakes, go kill a bunch of guys, get your loot, and go back. Just kind of this simple, calm vibe, and it's easy to get into this, you know, kind of like not flow state. This is this really kind of just semi-relaxing cycle, especially in places like the middle of nowhere where there's like just always side missions and just end up doing them for hours, you know, getting yourself new gear and all that. And that's really what I love the most. It's just a simple thing to replay. The end game, the DLCs, all of that. There isn't all this extra things that the dialogue isn't everywhere. You know, like, let's take that mission, the like family debts mission in Borderlands 2 or onwards, right? The entire mission, you'd be followed by a guy called Jonathan McJohn Johnson Joestar, and he'd be telling you how this family debt is actually a part of a 100-year-old feud, because one day 100 years ago his family was barbecuing rack right next to the house of a rich vegan family, and they took offense to that, and they have since then started a civil war that's lasted 100 years and has literally burnt planets to the ground. And that is just the backdrop to go collect a couple cans of skag steaks, you know. And that's not a problem. It's fun to listen to that sometimes. I still listen to the dialogue in Borderlands 2 and that sometimes on my own. I genuinely think some of it's actually still hilarious, even in 3's case sometimes. But sometimes replaying it, like I said, you don't really want to do all your side missions and story missions and have to listen to every piece of dialogue. Borderlands 3 is the biggest offender of this. And for anybody who's played it, you know what I mean. And for anybody who doesn't, but those who do, the words "talk to Lilith" is a severe form of PTSD that is only really understood by those who play Borderlands 3. The amount that having multiple max level characters across the PS4, 5, PC, or whatever can understand. You know, there's a reason there's a song about it. But beyond that, though, that just isn't Borderlands 1. You have to talk to some people. Sure, the General Knox DLC in driving and the lack of fascio and all the DLCs are weird, but still, there's just this honest, relaxing feeling to me in Borderlands 1 when replaying it, and really makes it kind of this my comfort game in these series to go through, even though Borderlands 2 is my favorite. I just love this kind of relaxed feeling in Borderlands 1 that you have in replaying it, if that makes sense. Now, on to what I would call my least favorite thing in Borderlands 1, or what I think Borderlands 1 does the worst. I think it does replayability the best, but honestly, funny enough, I think its story is obviously its worst aspect. As the gunplay has aged rather fine, it's really held up by regards to the gore and to its elemental and to the elemental damage and how that works. Like when you kill somebody with a electrical pistol or sniper or whatever in Borderlands 1, and their head literally breaks apart piece by piece, their skin melts off, and their skull pops out, and their brain and everything. That's the kind of really weird details that just isn't in the later games in some deaths. Or when they set on fire and they just like fall and just like try to put it off. Those are the kind of like damages that still do kind of make the gunplay fun to interact with, and also the guns itself are just kind of middling, but still fun enough to shoot and use on a game-to-game basis, you know? And also stuff like revolvers and stuff having major knockback does actually kind of make it fun compared to some of the other games. But I think its story is obviously the thing it does worse. I mean, that's an obvious one. I know I want to do this, like, not the obvious thing that everybody says, but unfortunately it is. Borderlands 1's narrative is just, like, the worst in the whole series. There's a reason, and people hardly talk about the story of Borderlands 1, you know? If they talk about, like, playing with friends or something like that, because there just isn't really any motivation in it. The DLCs did do a better job of that, with, like, General Knox, probably the only one in Borderlands 1's case, really, where you have Athena's story going on, and kind of getting invested in how Atlas screwed her over and just how depressed General Knox is. Claptrap is also kind of fun in another really stupid world-ending kind of way. I just like Doc. You know what? I love Dr. Ned's one. His voice actor just has such a fun time. And I love some of the dialogue at the end when you're about to kill me. He starts going about how he put on slippers and he was making brownies and all that. I just love it. But other than that, though, there really isn't much interest in it. I just spent like most time glazing it, and I'm talking against it. I mean, wow, what a stupid, what a consistent guy I am, right? But no, the Borderlands 1 story, for the most part, really, even in the DLCs, even in what I enjoy that are moments in the DLCs, the story still doesn't really have a lot for you to care about. Athena's story is kind of really told segmentedly, which isn't bad, but just still doesn't really bring you into the character or give you stakes like the other games do for some characters, and no real interest in her. And once again, that's something that, ironically, what I talked about that Borderlands 2 and that's annoying, does better sometimes for characters. Always having them talking can sometimes give them little dialogue flaws or things they talk about or things they think about when doing it. And it also helps that a lot of times these people give good performances. You know, Handsome Jack is a standout, even though he's not always the favorite. I like Tythfin Leon in Borderlands 3, especially the part where he talks about how he tried to be a father. Those are fun stuff. And that isn't there in Borderlands 1, which does come to its detriment as well as its aid. So, with that being said, that is what I like the most of Borderlands 1. I think its story does leave a lot to be desired, but it's also a game that was rebuilt internally from another game. And, I mean, what are you going to do about that, you know? I love its replayability, though. I love just kind of relaxingly running through, like, on my 5th Lilith or something, and just melting people alive. And that's it, you know, I practiced like 100 times, you know. For like weeks I've been writing this one out, and still I record it and I sound like an idiot. But oh well, I guess that'll be my staple. I sound like a moron when I record videos. But now, with my editing skills once again showing how excellent they are, and me not being able to switch to Borderlands 2 on time, we're audibly going to Borderlands 2. Because what I think Borderlands 2 does best is its world. And by that I just mean like its levels and all that, because it's difficult. I don't know if like the Hammerlock DLC is on Pandora, or if it's like the first time somewhere else. I think it probably is. I think everything in Borderlands 2 is on Pandora, you know? Except obviously Tiny Tina, right? But still, that's what I'm saying, just like the levels instead. I just love all Borderlands 2, Baldur's Gate Lands 2. What am I doing? But I love Borderlands 2's levels, all of them, honestly, and I love the way they flow with each other. It just really makes it fun to just kind of, to me, exist in the world of Borderlands 2 and just replay it as well. Though, replayability is not there, because I'll get into that with my least favorite thing on Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2's world and story really makes it fun to replay as Handsome Jack, even today, with all sorts of new villains and more in-depth antagonists. Handsome Jack is just such a consistently fun guy too. Damian Clark just gave such a career-best performance as Jack that even all these years later, even all these playthroughs later, I still love just listening to him and just going through the world of Borderlands 2 as well as listening to that, you know? The levels are just so fun and so unique to me. Borderlands 2, finally! The colors in Borderlands 2 as well, like it just does so much for me as well. The like icy cold glaciers and like the southern shelf. Like one of my favorite visuals in gaming, like the ash raining down on you in the Iridium Blight because of how it's mined, and just these like disgustingly purple veins from the iridium runoff, the like soulless steel silver in Opportunity, the calm guitar in Sanctuary. I just love the world of Borderlands 2 and how they've done it. The side missions obviously also help in a large case with that, with Borderlands 2 probably featuring the most iconic missions in the series, with stuff like what was the word? I keep forgetting my words. I rehearsed this so many times that I flunk. I'm sorry, guys. But some of the missions like Clan Wars and Cult Following, Don't Copy That Floppy, and all that stuff, just being like series iconic side missions that give us some of the best weapons in the series and some iconic farms as well. But that's why I love the most of Borderlands 2, just playing side missions and just existing and running, farming. Borderlands 2's world is just a fun place. I love the colors and how that flows. And now I know this isn't something really think with Borderlands, so like this kind of Dark Souls 1 kind of vibe to me, where when you're in the Bloodshot Ramparts, you can see the dust, you can actually kind of see to Thousand Cuts, then to the Iridium Blight, and then when you're in the Thousand Cuts, you can look up and you can see the damage. It adds just a little bit of tangential, I think that's the fancy word, tangential, like tangibility or something, whatever, to Borderlands 2's world. It just makes it fun for me to go through. I just love it. Though, funny thing is, going with that, my least favorite thing in Borderlands 2 is its progression, mainly starting from Ultimate Vault Hunter mode onwards. Borderlands 2 in normal mode and True Vault Hunter mode might just be my favorite game of all time, but Borderlands 2 going to Ultimate mode starts kind of just slowing pace down, and then when you get to the OP levels and some of the annoyances there, it really gets difficult sometimes to really keep enjoying it. Though I still love it, but the OP levels, especially now after the patches introduced with Commander Lilith and the Fight for Sanctuary, some things are really busted. I've heard so many videos and so many people talk about just how broken OP10 is. I haven't even been able to get there once, but I mean, mixed with that, it's just not fun sometimes. The later levels, the OP levels, and the constant reliance on slag makes build making really annoying sometimes, because you can't really just experiment. Those 4 slots, it's 4 slots with just 4 guns, but that can become really interesting in the way you stack out a load. It takes someone like Salvador, right? Just having offhanding this and this and this, but you always need slag. Unless, well, I mean, no, why am I even using Salvador? The man just like damage creeps an entire game. But nevertheless, that's my point. The thing is, though, you can kind of bypass that with stuff like Action Turret, Maya's abilities, and Zero's kunai, but still, the constant necessity of slag does become annoying once you reach Ultimate mode and especially the later OP levels. Now, those are my favorite things on Borderlands 2. It's just amazing world that I'll probably make a video in itself. Honestly, I might probably just end up making videos on all of these things separately, because I love talking about these so much. And yeah, I love the series. But now onto Borderlands, the pre-sequel. What I love the most with the pre-sequel is, surprisingly, its story. I really love it. I mean, I could put Borderlands 2 story on here, but it keeps changing on that. But I really love the world in Borderlands 2 a lot more, like I said, so I wanted to give the pre-sequel that. And because the pre-sequel's world isn't that interesting, there's not many cool stuff that happens, the levels aren't that interesting. You have some cool stuff there, but it's just not as fun as Borderlands 2's world. So that, to me, makes the story carry a lot of weight. And especially once you get back to Helios, the story really starts going in some interesting directions for me. Now, not like I'm not talking like Last of Us or like something, but it's also, to me, one of the few times in Borderlands series where you have like some pretty constant moral questions and moral dilemmas that aren't just solved by burn this guy alive or shoot him in the face and then burn his family alive. Stuff like Felicity and Gladstone and the engineers are, once again, not incredibly dark moral questions, but still questions that are very interesting to ask in a series like Borderlands. Now, for those of you who might not be in on it, Felicity is an AI you acquire in Borderlands pre-sequel, obviously, that ends up playing a major role, semi-playing a major role for Borderlands 2, because she's the AI that is built to use and used. She's the AI that is used in the Constructor enemies. Now, the Constructor enemies are the things that spawn these robots you saw me fighting earlier called the Loaders, but they are completely soulless machines only focused on making more loaders. So why did that happen? That's because Felicity had to be, her programming had to be purged, and the entire mission to do that, there's this constant back and forth between her and Handsome Jack on any possibilities, anything she can do to just maybe keep some semblance of her having become kind of sentient, and there's just nothing to do at the end. And it's this kind of question, like I said, it's not something that's really a big part of Borderlands, like ARA rampancy or something, like some marathon or Halo stuff. But it's the fun kind of questions that you're not used to seeing in a Borderlands game that makes it really fun. And especially the second half of Borderlands, the pre-sequel story, is really great for me because after Gladstone is killed, it just this constant air of just unease and something is just going to go wrong just keeps building up to me. I just love it. You know, for those of you who obviously know, the pre-sequel story is that of Handsome Jack and the birth of him as a villain. And we get to see him go from hero to kind of middle of the ground and then full-on villain. And it's really interesting, and there's a lot of stuff there that happens. But specifically, once you murder a couple scientists in the first time returning to Helios, the story just takes on this really, to me, ominous, like really foreboding tone as stuff is really being set in motion now that can't be undone. And especially on the second visit down to Elpis, it is just amazing. I just love that they're just constant descent into just unknown. I mean, by the end of it, like past Tycho's ribs, I think the level just before you fight the Vault monster of the game, or the Warrior Vault Guardian, it doesn't even, you constantly go down deeper into Elpis and deeper until you reach a point where it literally doesn't even look like you're on the planet anymore. You look like you're in some rift, lost in time, in some place that you feel you shouldn't be there. And I love the feeling that the pre-sequel builds leading up to that, and obviously in that, like I said, it's the only Borderlands game to me that really leaves the feeling of unease, and also the fact that by Borderlands 2, half of the original non-DLC cast is going to be killed, with Nisha being killed in Lynchwood, and Wilhelm becoming Killhelm, and Killhelm. You know what I mean. So it's really this interesting thing to me, where the cast is all villains. They're responsible for so much stuff that happens. Like I said here, Nisha, she's dead. So much stuff that happens and to get set up in the pre-sequel, and just interesting for me to see it. I like that, and such a unique kind of thing for Borderlands. Like, once again, I'm not trying to make this sound like it's some Red Dead 2 or Last of Us, but to me it's interesting and something the series doesn't really go back into doing. Though that being said, my least favorite thing with the pre-sequel probably does simply be it being just, honestly, I keep trying to think of unique stuff to say. I've been thinking on it so long, but I just can't come up with something else. But that being its endgame, because there is none. You complete the story, you go through ultimate mode, you go through true Vault Hunter mode, then ultimate mode, and then you kind of did it. You just kind of go there. There's no real farms to do. You have what's like Irajira, and I mean, come on, who wants to farm Eos? It's like the worst boss fight in the whole series, right? So you really have nothing to do post-game, which is annoying, but it's never bothered me that much, as I've never been a like hugely farming obsessed player. So for me, just playing the story on each character every now and then is just fun enough for me. Like I said, I love the story in the pre-sequel, and it's just a unique thing to me. Like, I really like the idea we get to see Jack, and I really like that we get to play as unabashedly as the actual villains this time, and how so much of what we do just ends up impacting Borderlands 2, and how just bad everything feels by the end of that. You really are not. It's the only game also, sorry, it's side note before we move on. The only one where the Guardians, outside of Borderlands 1, where they feel like a real threat. I mean, in Borderlands 3, they're just pushovers. They're not even in Borderlands 2, but in Borderlands 3, they're just a joke. To me, every playthrough they've been, I've never really struggled with Guardians in Borderlands 3. But those are my things that I like the most of the pre-sequel. I love its story, I love its tone, especially in the second half. Once you come back down to Helios, in the second half after the scientist dies, and then the return to Helios is just some of my favorite parts in Borderlands. But my least favorite is unfortunately the fact that there's really nothing to do after that story. Now, moving on to Borderlands 3, my favorite thing in Borderlands 3 is its DLCs. Because the DLCs honestly did a lot of heavy work in saving Borderlands 3 after its launch, and especially its main story, which you can probably already guess what I think it does worse than in that case. But its DLCs just did a great job of expanding on the world that Borderlands 3 tried building, as Borderlands 3 is still the largest game in the series in terms of at least like scope and where you go. It is the largest of them all. But it was hampered by some really bad writing, and I don't know if it's been said before, it's like an actual writing term, or if it's something I just made up, but start and stop storytelling, which I'll get into when I get into it. But that mixed with the kind of iffy writing, the Calypsos just being a masterclass in wasted potential of villains, left a lot of heavy lifting falling to its bonus content, which luckily Borderlands 3 delivered in spades, because I don't know why or what, but they just decided to lock in when coming to the DLCs in terms of farms, gear, writing. I mean, the Borderlands 2 to me is so weird because the main campaign had these really crap writing, but then you get to the DLCs and you have the Mordecai birthday mission or Claptrap and the crippled lady dancing, and these just like surprisingly really human moments. And like, where was this for the main story? And the DLCs saw that and gave us a lot of really good moments like that. Wainwright's Wainwright's confession during Guns, Love, and Tentacles is really great. Or was it Hammer? It was Hammerlocks, I think. I can't remember which one. Either way, their confession is great. I haven't played Guns, Love in a while because I don't farm like the Anarchy. But nevertheless, that was a great moment. Not Juno, sorry. Butcher Rose is a really great character. It's a really fun villain. The Handsome Jackpot and Timothy was just awesome. And Krieg's whole arc with Maya was just so nice and such a surprisingly down-to-earth shift. And once again, a Borderlands stories looks like Borderlands stories are just like at its best when just dealing with grief. And honestly, Krieg dealing with Maya, and that's just some of the best writing in the series to me. So, and of course, class mods and gear. The Scrap Trap farm for the Handsome Jackpot. I think it was Flipper was the name. The one that shoots the big square block of death and elemental damage that turns Mose into even more of a killing machine than she already is in Guns Love. Not Guns Love, and Blood Gun. Nah. You know, the Rose DLC, okay? I hate recording things 100 times until screwing it up. But nevertheless, that is what I think Borderlands 3 did the best. Its bonus content, all of it is just amazing and just like consistently firing on all cylinders. Now, what did Borderlands 3 do worst? Its main story. Its main story, like I said, suffers from start and stop storytelling. And the best way to put this as an example is, let's say you're walking, and we'll use the first, I say third and a half, probably, of the story for this. Let's say you're walking, right? Walking is Pandora. You're learning all your new gear. You're learning about all your new gear, your movement, the secondary fires and guns, and all that stuff. And you're walking, okay? Lilith loses her power, so the story starts getting into a jog. You're going to Promethea. It's a new place. It's the first time you're off Pandora, so it's just hype and excitement. It's this beautiful city, Electra City. You have Moxie's side mission, Reese's back, Zero's back, corporate war. You know, all of that really fun stuff. You're just jogging. You go to Athenas. The story starts running. You meet Maya. Things are picking up even more. You're fighting Trond. And the story's just like running. You get back and you're starting to go into a full-blown corporate war. You have a big battle on Atlas. Katagawa's a pushover, but the battle to there with Respawn is awesome. And the story's just hitting a sprint now, you know? You're going to a vault. You're fighting to a vault with Maya. Maya's there in the vault monster fight, unlike the other times where the vault hunters leave you outside and then she dies. And like, it's like if the story's sprinting now, like the story's sprinting now after Maya's dying, it's gonna jump on a plane and hang like Tom Cruise, right? I mean, we are just gonna go like after the Calypsos, and no, the story stops and goes back to a walk with a incredibly weird funeral scene, and then going to Eden 6 where the entire process kind of restarts. And I'm gonna make a video on Borderlands 3 story on what I think it could have done. But yeah, I think Eden 6 is what really kills a lot of momentum. A lot of my playthroughs have suffered because of Eden 6, and especially the mission, the Family Jewel. It is just, to me, the worst mission in the whole series. But nevertheless, that is what I mean stop and start storytelling. The game just picks up pace, and just stops. And it does that for the rest of the entire runtime. Eden 6 also follows that same ending up in a sprint method. Though Eden 6 actually continues over to Pandora until Necrotafeo. Necrotafeo just stops and just throws it all to a crawl. So that's it, you know. The Calypsos as well also weren't helping the story. They're just, in my opinion, the definition of wasted potential, especially considering their streamer likeness and what the world is today now. They had a chance to also be kind of like head of the curve villains. These two guys, the whole world just turns to friends. I mean, like, look at people like Hassan, Dog Shocker, and like people getting upset about Sonar or Critical, you know, be like saying they only base their opinions on that. And your Borderlands was saying those are the villains. Not saying all of them are. I mean, how can Sonar be a villain ever, you know? He's just working for Vanderstank, and then you also have like this most critical guy there. But nevertheless, these villains being placed in this kind of place could have been a really interesting thing for Borderlands, but they just butchered it by just ruining the twins. Because I have an idea, I have a video that I want to make, and I'm definitely going to structure it more. Every video I'm doing, I'm getting better, I'm structuring things more. So for anybody watching through all this, thank you for sticking around. So that would I say is my favorite thing and least favorite thing on Borderlands 3. It's post-game content just really skyrocketed the game. Yes, even Ava's stuff I really enjoyed. That was dumb fun. And the DLCs itself were great. The bonus events as well are just awesome fun. And then I think its worst aspect would be its main story. Now, going on to Borderlands 4, the final game at this point in the series, because what do I even say? Tales did the best, you know? It's just obvious. Tales did characters the best. It's the only game where you really have time to spend with your characters. Though the pre-sequel did introduce our characters having actually flavorful dialogue during the game, it's still not like if I play as Nisha, I'm really gonna experience her developing from a kind of horny psychopath to just a pure psychopath, right? No, so the Tales just gave us the best characters, and the thing that sucks was, I don't know, that it didn't have proper gameplay. Borderlands 4, let's just get to that instead, okay? What I think Borderlands 4 did the best is, well, shocker, right? Gameplay. I really think Borderlands 4's gameplay is great. The new manufacturer licensing system mixed with the gliding, sliding, and dashing just make for a... Sorry, I'm so sorry about that noise. I didn't even know what that was, if that came up on the microphone. But the gameplay in Borderlands 4 just makes for this really fun experience. Like, especially, like I said, the manufacturer licensing. I just love looking around, going into Rift Champions, getting new gear, and just seeing what it does. My favorite being what I found thus far is Vladovs with licensed sticky torque barrels, just peppering enemies full of bullets, and looks like you're just like spitting at them, and then you just reload your magazine and see how just this turn into a red mist as their health bar just depletes. I love it. And that really extends to all of it. I mean, I never thought I'd be playing a Borderlands game where I'm holding a fully automatic Jacobs pistol that shoots knives into people's craniums would be something I'd see, but it's there in Borderlands 4, and it is awesome. It is really fun to play, and the Vault Hunters as well. Like I said, game plan, that includes the Vault Hunters. The Vault Hunters are great fun to play as. Amon, what heck, man. The bad guy in the first season of Legend of Korra, now a good guy after he blew himself up, or his brother blew them both up. I can't remember, I haven't watched Korra in forever. He's great to play as. I love the axes, the sword. Harlow, I haven't really done much with Harlow. She's nice, I like the bubbles. Vex is a really cool siren. And of course, por supuesto, el mejor character in Borderlands 4, Rafa. I love Rafa. He is probably my favorite Vault Hunter in the entire series. His personality and big way of talking, and his voice actor putting in Spanish, and everything with Rafa. I love it. I love Rafa. Playing as him is just so much fun. I love his abilities as well, and that just once again translates to me to the whole game. Playing Borderlands 4 is just fun. I love playing Borderlands 4, but that also kind of translates into, at the moment, what I would say could be its least the thing it does worst, though that is subject to change because the game hasn't even had its first full DLC out. So I'm going to hold off on saying that the worst thing that Borderlands 4 does is its endgame, because we don't know what the endgame is yet. It's not fair to say it has the worst endgame in the series when its full list of content hasn't even been out, you know? So in that case, what I think Borderlands 4 does worst is its side missions and the way that the way that gear is given to you. Now, let's take that example that I used for Borderlands 1 of the mission like getting the steak cans, the skag steaks for that family. In Borderlands 1, 2, and such, you would be given a specific gun. Borderlands 1 was kind of randomized, but moving on to Borderlands 2 to 3, where it was kind of established how it would go, you would get a certain rarity gun, and you would get that every time. You could farm it, like, what was it? Like, not hotkey, like, the kind of safe farming in Borderlands they do in that, like, free saving, or like, whatever, like, I can't remember the word. You know what I mean, where you kind of like skimp the save files and you can just re-roll it. You could do that to get the parts you want, like with the Sandhawk and the Pimpernel. You save, quit farming and all that stuff, then you return it in until you get the version of the gun you want. That was kind of how side missions worked. Let's say the gun for that was a legendary called the Joestar's Heritage, because it's all about stakes and it's a big JoJo reference of a side mission, who knows. Then every time you do that mission, you could get a new version of it. You could build an inventory of it. It's fun to do that, and sometimes it's fun to play those missions and go get those fun guns and do stuff with them. Sometimes the guns, like with Borderlands 2, are even some of the best guns you could get in the game, like the Pimpernel and Sandhawk. Those are excellent guns, and you got them from side missions. Borderlands 4 does not do that. None of these side missions give you any kind of specialized gear or anything except randomized guns, not even in a certain rarity. Once again, I know Borderlands 1 kind of did that, but it was Borderlands 1, you know? You think Borderlands 1 gets an excuse because it's the first game in the series. Borderlands 4 has had 2 pre-sequel and 3 to really learn, and of course Wonderlands, I guess. 2, 3 pre-sequel Wonderlands to learn how to do these side missions and how the loot rewarding for side missions should go. So to me, that they went back to the Borderlands 1 system of just having random guns is just baffling and really, really ruins it, because certain bosses that you farm gear from are locked behind side missions, but there's no incentive to replay those side missions because there's nothing gained from them. So I'd say that is probably what I think Borderlands 4 does the worst, and that is something that it can change. So if I ever do end up redoing this video at the end of the game's lifespan, then we'll see if the end game was as bad as it is. With that being said, that is everything I think of the series up until this point. This was another relatively long one. I'm sorry, I sound so stupid. I try recording this is probably like my 15th recording of it at this point across one day. I don't even know how many times I've recorded this thing myself. But either way, I hope you enjoyed. I'm really working on trying to get these videos timed properly, better my commentary and my writing skills and all that, so I can make fun videos for people to enjoy. Because I love this series and I really want to talk about stuff like this. I love going to these details like I said with Borderlands 2, its art and its world, and with Borderlands 3D DLCs or its missed story ideas. I love those stuff. So I want to do more of that. But with that being said, we made it to the end of this list and we didn't even get to see Borderlands 4 gameplay, so thank you for watching. If you really liked this video, subscribe it. I'm gonna do more stuff like this. Leave me in a comment as well. What do you think each game did best? What do you think about the series? What do you think Borderlands 4 is gonna end at? And let's keep it civil. If you are gonna comment on Borderlands 4, it is not the worst game in the series yet. There is still a chance Gearbox can turn it around. With the Magician, it can be a bit dicey. But nevertheless, I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you, as always. If you watch this video, I appreciate it so much. I love doing this, and I love when people watch it, and if they can find any enjoyment out of it as well. Have a nice time of wherever you are in the world, and goodbye.